So, I know a few days ago I made a video about how the Miami Heat have once again found a hidden gem that they have been developing behind the scenes and are about to unleash into their rotation this year, with that player having been Kezie Okpala. And as an organization, the Heat have seemingly managed to find under-the-radar players like this on a regular basis. But the thing is that this year, Okpala isn't the only one they've managed to uncover. You see, Kezie Okpala definitely proved himself to be a viable option in the rotation throughout the preseason this year, but another player by the name of Max Strus very well might be their biggest find yet, as he has one of the biggest underdog stories in the entire NBA to get to this point, which brings us to the topic of today's video. Today we'll be discussing who exactly Max Strus is, what he went through to make it to where he is right now, and what kind of player he is to make it clear he belongs at this level. Before we start though, it turns out about 68% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now, with that being said, let's begin. Max Strus grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in a town called Hickory Hills in Illinois, and growing up, he was actually a two-sport athlete, playing both basketball and baseball. He entered into high school standing at only 5 foot 9 inches tall, and remained that height all the way to the end of his sophomore year, so needless to say, he wasn't exactly built like a legitimate basketball recruit at the midway point of his high school career. However, very late in the game, Strus experienced a massive growth spurt that went all the way through the end of his high school career, that saw him shoot up all the way to stand at 6'6", and all of a sudden, he began to emerge on the high school basketball scene. In his senior season, he finally took off as a top player in the state high school scene, posting averages of about 19 points and 9 rebounds per game that year, winning the area's Player of the Year award and being named to the All-State team. But having been such a late bloomer, he didn't really garner much attention at all from Division I scouts, and he finished high school with just one Division I offer from local Chicago State University, which is a mid-major program that plays in the Western Athletic Conference. Because of this, Strus actually ended up committing to play for a Division II school, being Lewis University. And it was there that his older brother actually played before him, so that's where the connection was to get him to begin his collegiate career at that school. Obviously, being a Division II player at that time, the NBA was a long pipe dream away for him, but that didn't stop him from continuing to push on and work hard every day to improve and show the world he was legit. In his freshman season there, he started every game for the team and averaged a nice, modest line of 13 points and 5 rebounds per game, but then in his second season at Lewis, he emerged as one of the best players at the Division II level by averaging a solid 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, leading the team in each of those categories, and being named first team all-conference. It was at this point that he was finally able to achieve his goal of playing Division I basketball, as he received interest from several power conference programs, so he chose to transfer to DePaul University to play out the remainder of his college career. He sat out a year, as all transfer players are required to do, but when he became eligible in the 2018 season, he was immediately placed into DePaul's starting lineup and became one of their go-to options, which honestly speaks to how good of his work ethic that he has throughout the entire process, because most players taking a leap to Division I from a lower level need time to adjust, but Strus came in and imposed his will as an impact player in the Big East from day one. He averaged 17 points per game that first season at DePaul, and he almost broke the school record for threes made in a season, having made 81 that year, which was the second most in school history. And from there, his shooting became a lethal asset that put him on the NBA's radar. In fact, he even tested the waters by declaring for the 2018 NBA draft that year, but after going through the pre-draft process and talking to scouts and getting feedback about how they felt about his game, he felt it was best for him to return for his senior season at DePaul to try to improve his draft stock. So, in his final season of college basketball, he played the best basketball of his life, averaging a strong 20 points per game, and he did end up breaking that school record for threes made in a season, this time improving that number to making 113 throughout the year. Now, you would think that after testing the draft waters a year before, and then coming back and improving as a player across the board, he would have improved his draft stock for the 2019 draft, right? Well, that proved to not be the case. It turns out former Division II players that enter the NBA as a 5-year college player and are 23 years old don't exactly turn any heads, so once again Struss found himself as the underdog forced to work his way back up the totem pole. He originally signed with the Boston Celtics, where he played Summer League and showed off his shooting prowess in Summer League, making 45% of his shots from deep in that span, so they invited him to training camp on a 2-way contract. Unfortunately, he would end up being the final player cut by the Celtics before the season started, but this wasn't the end of his journey, as the Chicago Bulls actually picked him up on another 2-way contract after that, and that's where he spent last season. Most of his year was spent down in the G League, and in his time there he continued to develop as a shooter with a green light to launch in high volume, which definitely played a huge part in his fit with the Miami Heat, but we'll get to that later. At this point, things were looking up for his future in Chicago, as he made appearances in 2 games at the NBA level for them, and he was performing well down in the G League, but unfortunately, he faced yet another speed bump when he tore his ACL, ending his season, and was supposed to hold him out for at least part of this current season. But in a way, the break from basketball because of COVID worked in his advantage. With all of the time off, and this season having the start date pushed back because of it, he actually had enough time to recover properly and heal from that unfortunate injury, and because of this, he signed a 2-way contract with the Miami Heat for this season. Now, as I said before, the Miami Heat have an exceptional track record with developing under-the-radar prospects into legitimate contributors, and an example of why I believe Struss will succeed here in their development is because of their development of sharpshooter Duncan Robinson. You see, Robinson actually has a very similar path to the NBA as Struss, having been a former Division III player who made his way up the ranks, then becoming a player on a 2-way contract, then working his way into a rotation and breaking out because of his sharpshooting ability, and the comparison between the two is eerily similar, and once again, they get to work their magic with Struss in this regard. In the preseason this year, Struss got regular minutes in both games they played, knocking down 3 threes and scoring 11 points in their first preseason game, and then going off for a highly impressive 22 points in their second preseason game against the Toronto Raptors, and knocking down 6 of his 8 attempted 3-pointers in that game. You see, the Heat are a team that push their shooters to never hesitate to pull the trigger on a shot when they're open, and last year, they utilized Duncan Robinson in this role to have him have the ultimate green light, which ultimately resulted in him becoming one of the best sharpshooters in the league. From what I've seen so far, they're using Struss in this same kind of role, and it's exactly where he's at his best, having never shied away from launching 3-pointers in high volume throughout his career. It really is kind of crazy how good certain organizations are at identifying talent and how well they develop said talent over time, with the Miami Heat always seeming to be near the top of the league in this regard. It's the kind of thing that separates good teams from great teams, and once again, the Heat are proving to be a great one. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about Max Struss and his future in the NBA. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.